Thank you very much, and quite happy to be here, and hopefully everyone has had sufficient enough wine that I will sound actually pretty good here today. A brief note, I will probably cover a few things that Brent already covered about graphite, so I apologize if you hear something twice, but it's rare to have two graphite companies presenting in the same room, so it just shows how graphite is coming into the forefront. And just before I get into this, on the slide itself, our cover, in the back of that is actually our flake graphite. And our slide is talking all about the numbers, but it's actually all about the flake. As Brent said, talking about graphite, it's all about the metallurgy and the advanced projects that we'll talk about, and Brent mentioned a few, all have the metallurgy right. And I believe we are at the top of that leaderboard as well. So we've got the typical disclaimer that all of you have seen before, and if anybody has any trouble sleeping tonight, you can pull this off our website and give that a read. With graphite, and where Focus Graphite is, we've been in the game for quite a while, so we're fairly advanced. We are no longer an exploration company. We are a development company, and we are moving to bring the Lac Knife project to production, and we are going through the steps of doing that. So today I'll go through some overall facts of Focus Graphite, where we are, where we've been, where we're going, and we'll do a little bit of an overview of graphite itself and why it's an important mineral to be looking at. Focus Graphite trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol FMS, and we are also on the OTC QX for our American shareholders, and we have a substantial following there. We own 100% of the Lac Knife graphite deposit in Quebec, and as Darren mentioned earlier this evening in his talk with Balmoral, is that Quebec is a very mine-friendly place to be. We are actually surrounded by giant iron ore mines, so we're in an excellent infrastructure area. We have rail, and most notably, we have cheap electric power, hydroelectric power from Hydro-Quebec, and that's one of the key things that gets us into a low-cost producer. We have one of the highest grade large flake deposits in the world at 16%. And at this point, we anticipate to be among the lowest cost production at $458 per ton. Part of that is due to the fact that we are in Quebec and we have the low cost hydroelectric power in the 4.5 to 5 cents a kilowatt hour range. So that helps us out there. And as Nancy mentioned, we are just recently, just before Christmas, we signed the first ever offtake agreement in the history of the graphite industry. And so we were quite pleased to do that. And ironically, with a Chinese company, we are supposed to be the answer to producing producing graphite outside of China. But the Chinese, it just shows how the graphite market is changing, and China is still looking to not to say control supply of graphite, but they're seeing that the need to get high quality graphite is outside their borders now. And what does this mean for us? Basically, I think we have reaffirmed our status as a world-class graphite resource, positions us to be one of the lower-cost producers, and we can compete in any market. The significance of the cost per ton we have of concentrate is that although the numbers out of China are pretty opaque, we're anticipating that the cost of production out of China for a similar product is probably in the same range. So we're quite pleased that we can be in North America and compete with the Chinese. Overall, the graphite market has become a little bit of a geopolitical football. The U.S. and the EU have both named graphite as a supply critical material. There is no graphite produced in the continental United States. There was one flake graphite mine operating in Canada, and it just recently shut down. There is a need to feed the market, and as the world is starting to need more graphite, China is starting to turn the taps off. So with projected demand for graphite coming on mainly from the battery sector, we will need at least 25 new mines to meet that by 2020, where the demand for graphite will rise from about 500,000 tons a year to beyond 1.7 million tons a year for batteries alone. Most people ask, what is graphite? And I won't spend too much time on this because Brent covered a little bit about this in his presentation. And the quick soundbite on graphite is that it's a non-metallic mineral. It is pure carbon. There's only two pure forms of carbon in the world. One is diamond, and the other is graphite. We just happen to have the two-dimensional form. And it has, although it's non-metallic, it has metallic properties. It's both electrically conductive and thermally conductive, and I'll touch on a few of the applications in a minute. It's the main form of graphite, the highest value form of graphite. Amorphous graphite is also produced from China, but it has lesser growth potential, and it's a lower valued product. Graphite consumption today is mainly from refractories. So with its thermal conductive properties and the melting point of 3,600 degrees Celsius, the steel industry is a major user of graphite. The bricks that line the blast furnaces are made with graphite. Anywhere you see molten metal being poured or shaped or molded there's graphite involved. You get into brake pads, clutch parts. So a lot of applications that you use every day that you don't think of. And so it's a significant market already existing with a growth rate, but the interest in graphite has come from lithium-ion batteries. The anode in the battery is graphite. There are no substitutes. It's either synthetic graphite or natural graphite. Synthetic graphite for batteries is $20,000 per ton. Natural graphite for batteries is about $8,000 a ton. So as the batteries get bigger and more are produced, that becomes pretty significant. Other immediate applications for it, as Brent mentioned, all your walk-around electronics none of them have fans to make them portable, and they all need graphite in them to pull the heat off the circuit boards. Otherwise, they would get pretty hot and probably stop working. So the annual market is growing, the existing markets are growing, but we're going to see the growth, and obviously the interest in graphite has come from lithium-ion batteries. And China is the elephant in the room. China controls the market. Similar to the rare earths, a few years ago everyone was talking about rare earths and lithium. The rare earth producers, or the potential producers, educated the markets on the China supply problem. That's transferable to graphite, and the lithium potential miners educated the markets on batteries. And that's what got people looking. Once that market was saturated, what's next? It's graphite. You cannot make a battery without graphite. And as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. mines no graphite, and the only operating mine, Timcal operated a mine just north of Montreal in Quebec, and it just shut down. They claim to be coming back onto production in a few years after they develop more resources, but remains to be seen. So basically, all flakes are in high demand, and the ability to get this from China has diminished substantially. Graphite pricing is another interesting fact. It's gone flat in the last little while. This chart is actually, the data comes from Industrial Minerals, which is a UK publication that follows the price of graphite. And graphite is priced based on the size of the flake and the purity of that flake, how clean you can get it, how high of carbon you can get it. So in this particular chart shows large flake, high purity graphite, 94 to 97 carbon, and from 2005 to about 2012, the prices actually tripled. They've fallen off since, and we seem to be following this pattern in the base case scenario where the graphite, we seem to have seen prices bottom out, where we've marked it on the line there, and we're starting to see that flatten and start to trend upward, and I think all indications are we're heading back up. We anticipate to be in production by mid-2016, and as you can see from that standpoint, it looks quite good for us, where our costs are still showing at $458 per ton. Our average selling price is about $18.80 a ton, and as you see, will be significantly higher as we move towards production, which bodes well for all of us. The key thing with this is the low production costs. At $458 per ton, that makes us very competitive, and I would say untouchable from the Chinese as far as their lower costs, because we are seeing costs out of China rise for various factors. The competition we've seen can range in price from $390 a ton to, in one case, about $1,300 a ton. So again, we will be very competitive, and we are also working on other aspects of the project to keep our costs in the downward trend as well. We think at this point we'll be able to set the market price, and with our offtake agreement we have that fairly well in hand, And as I mentioned before, our average selling price right now for run-of-mine product is $18.86 a ton. In parallel to working on our run-of-mine production, we will also be working on our value-added graphite. The interest, as I mentioned, in graphite has come from lithium-ion batteries. We can take a product that we would normally sell for $900 a ton. We anticipate adding another $1,000 a ton to have an all-in price of about $1,500 a ton, where we can sell for average between $6,000 to $10,000 a ton for spherical graphite that's been coated and purified. You'll see prices right now for just run-of-mine large size in the range of $13.50 a ton, and the fine size grades are in the $800 range. So, and one quote recently from Industrial Minerals magazine is that the days of cheap, abundant graphite from China are over, and then we've seen that hold true. Where are we going? Next phase, we are working on funding in parallel to our offtake agreement. We are working on our funding. We are hoping to have an announcement on that in the very near term. The offtake agreement definitely strengthens our path to that and allow us to continue on our production plans to continue building the team and the process. So I have some top-notch people I'm working with now. Myself, I'm a mining engineer, and my strength is in operations. I was actually chief engineer at one of the 2 graphite mines that became operational in the early 90s before the Chinese created the markets and shut everybody down. So I have first-hand experience in dealing with this Chinese situation. And we are continuing to work on our design phase. We are at a feasibility level design right now and working on our other aspects of it. So we are just about to announce our updated resource. We completed some infill drilling this past summer, and that will be pulled up into our feasibility study, where we will have a proven and probable reserve by the summertime. We just recently updated our PEA based on new metallurgical results from our pilot plant, and shows that we can produce a high quality, high carbon flake with very relatively low costs. As I said, the feasibility study is underway. We have Metchem out of Montreal working on that. I've worked with them in the past on a different design, and they're very good outfit to have to be working with. And we are also in parallel working with, I have some colleagues I've worked with in the past, and we are developing our methodologies to produce our spherical graphite to provide to the lithium-ion battery producers. The numbers speak for themselves. We're looking at initial capex we need at $126 million. That doesn't include a contingency. The other important number on this page, again, as I keep saying, is the $458 per ton of concentrate. And as you can see, that comes down from our large, medium, and fine run-of-mine products. Yields a pre-tax IRR of 36.4% with a very quick payback and a quite attractive NPV at $317 million at an 8% discount. This is just a bit of a breakdown of the CapEx, what we require, where it's going to be spent, and I think in a lot of cases, you're going from a PEA to a feasibility study. You end up with the trend seems to be always going higher in CapEx. I'm pretty confident that we will cut some more CapEx out of this and get us down to closer to the 100 million mark. And we did that within the PEA. When we updated that, we were able to knock 30 million off of that. And I'm quite confident we'll refine these numbers a bit. But even so, at $126 million, it's not a large amount of money in comparison to other projects. The stock, we basically have 106 million shares outstanding. As you can see, there was quite a large downward trend, and I think most junior miners probably have charts like this. We debated putting a chart on the board until we had a pop-up when we announced the offtake agreement. So we were quite happy to be able to put this chart on. And right now we're trading, I believe, mid 50 cent range, 50, 55 cents, I think. Not sure we closed today. So our market cap is in the $60 million range, and we have very comfortable cash position, which again is for junior mining. Seems to be the main thing to have at the moment. And we have no debt. So it's a very comfortable place to be. The share structure is pretty widely held, but we do have about 15% insider ownership. I myself am a shareholder. Key management and board, as I mentioned myself, I am a mining engineer, and I bring not only other mining experience, but in particular graphite experience, which I don't mind saying is a pretty rare attribute to have within a graphite company or even in general. I've got a good team to work with. Our CFO is actually even a geologist with experience in that field, and I've got a good team of production geologists, and we do have some exploration properties, and I've got a top-notch PhD geologist covering that for me, so I can be focused on the Lac Knife project and building that. And I'm not an exploration guy, I'm a mining guy, so I've got someone to look after that for me. And I have some key people as well for working on our value-added products. It's rare also to have people with experience in graphite and working with graphite, so I'm quite happy to have that to develop our value-added products. We have a good board, very visionary, very business-minded, and again, they've given me the free rein to bring Lac Knife to production and do what needs to be done to accelerate that process. That was my mandate when I joined the company. It's interesting, 3 years, 4 years ago, talking about graphite, nobody had heard of graphite, and now people are asking me to draw a comparison between the various players in the field here. So I put this chart together, which I think is I would call it the leaderboard, and not necessarily in any order on there, but the properties that I think have the best chance of building a mine. And I did talk to Brent before I surprised him with this chart, so we weren't catching ourselves off guard here. But the key thing to look at in the graphite company, and as Brent mentioned in his talk, that there's a lot of misinformation out there about graphite and what makes a good graphite mine, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. But these categories here to look at, the selling price, the production costs, and the flake distribution are the key things to look at. And the flake distribution is really all about the metallurgy. And you have to look at what product you can make out of the rock. And it's basically how much graphite, what can you put in the bag, what's the quality of that. You can have a deposit that's 40% graphite, but it may be worthless because you may not have the proper flake distribution that's going to give you that economic benefit. So in our case, for example, we're showing it an average selling price of $18.86 a ton. That would compare to, say, Mason graphite at $15.25 a ton. And they are showing a lower production cost, however our margin is higher. So you have to look inside the numbers at the flake distribution, and you'll see even in that case, for example, they're showing a product mix that has close to 60% minus 150 mesh, and I won't get too technical, but that's pretty small flake. The value drops off significantly when it's in that carbon range, so you have to look inside the numbers to see if that really makes any sense, does that 1525 number really going to be realized. One of the key things with focus graphite and the Lac Knife deposit is you see our flake distribution, you see a lot of 98s there on the right-hand side there. We are extremely lucky, and I'll just jump ahead here a second here to show our flake distribution, and that all of our graphite flake that we produce, even in the fine range above 200 mesh, is 98 carbon. And that's, in my experience with graphite, is unheard of. We are able to produce this very high purity flake from our crush grind flotation process, and what that means is typically when in the finer ranges, as your grade drops off, it becomes harder to sell. So if you're looking to produce a higher grade deposit, has a higher percentage of fines, you're going to have difficulty selling that. In our case, the fact that it's 98 carbon will divert that product that we could only probably sell for $900 a ton, and we will value add, we will make it into spherical graphite, and we'll sell that for $8,000 a ton. And the significance of that is the fact that we're starting at 98 carbon. For a battery, you have to purify that to 99.95. So if you're dealing with a product that's only 91 carbon, that's a pretty big step to jump up there. So it's just the nature of the flake, and we're just lucky to have that. So again, if looking at any graphite deposit, this is what you want to look at. As Brent said earlier, it's all about the metallurgy. And we've shown that we can produce extremely good flake distribution and at a very high carbon content. Darren mentioned earlier about working in Quebec, and Quebec is the location of our property, and it is one of the most say friendly mining jurisdictions, I think, on the planet, and we're lucky to be there. It looks to be fairly isolated in the mid-north of Quebec, up near Labrador City. However, everything we need is there. So any supplies when we're mining, when we're constructing the plant, everything is there. And the key thing is also a rail line running from Wabush right down to the port of Sept-Îles, where we will ship our product to market, either staying within North America for most of the traditional markets, or it will go out St. Lawrence to Europe, or for batteries, it will go to Asia at this point. The project itself, this is a pretty busy diagram here, but we have, I'll just jump ahead. This just shows our claim group, and Lac Knife in the center there, that star is the deposit itself, where we have over 16,000 meters of diamond drilling to prove out our current resource estimate of 8 million tons indicated and inferred. As I mentioned earlier, we just finished infill drilling. We're very close to announcing our updated resource, where we pull all that inferred up into measured and indicated categories, and we'll actually end up with also another amount of inferred. But we will be in at least that amount or slightly higher at that grade to pull up into our reserve calculation, which was being done in parallel, obviously, with our feasibility study, which again we're expecting to produce late spring, early summer. This slide I threw in just to show that we are working on the site layout, the infrastructure, where we're putting the tailings, where the mine is, obviously, is where the deposit is, where the plant is going to be. So we are extremely advanced and working on our permitting issues with the Quebec government on our closure plan in parallel with our feasibility study. So we're advancing the project. We continue to de-risk the project and move things forward. The development plan here, one of the significant items on here at the end of 2013, as he mentioned, the offtake agreement is worth repeating several times during this presentation because it is a pretty significant point we've accomplished, and that just makes everything else so much easier. The thing with graphite is it's not a traded commodity. It's not like copper or nickel or gold where there's an exchange, and the biggest question always is when you're dealing with trying to finance an industrial mineral project, and specifically graphite, is you can make it, but can you sell it? So now we can show the markets that yes, in fact, we can sell it. And again, that's a significant aspect of it. There is a maximum amount. This group we signed with is the Chinese conglomerate will take all of our production. We don't particularly want to do that, and we won't. But what it's actually done is it's woken up the others that we've been talking with. The Japanese and the South Korean companies that make batteries have been taking their time. They've been talking to ourselves. They've been talking to the other graphite companies. I'm sure Brenda's spent a fair bit of time talking with them as well. And now they're suddenly nervous because China has come back into the fray. They're concerned about supply from China, and now suddenly China has taken a piece of our production. And the benefit of that is going to get them off the fence and probably add to our production or take more of our production capacity. In 2014 is going to be extremely busy for us. In parallel to our offtake, we were also working on our financing. We were hoping to have an announcement before the end of 2013 on that as well, but I think we're going to save that for sometime this quarter or early next as we continue to solidify that. And the feasibility study is underway for potentially midsummer publication. And with that, we will continue on, pending our financing, continue right into EPCM and continue on our path to be in production by mid-2016. Financing, as you mentioned earlier, we need to raise $126 million to build the plant, to build the mine, and we're quite confident we can do that. And timing is hopefully imminent, but it's also not dependent on the outcome of our feasibility study. So we're actively working on that now and looking to go for a mix of debt and equity to minimize dilution. And again, I think I've probably gone through this fairly quickly, and there's usually a lot of information to portray, but it's been a long evening, so I won't drag it out any longer. But obviously, we'll have some more time for some questions, if there are any.